I don't think modern games are bad. Actually, I think a lot of them are impressive in ways older games could never be. But I've noticed something strange over time. Retro games feel easier to enjoy. And by easier, I don't mean they're simpler, less advanced, or somehow better by default. I mean, they're just less resistance between you and the fun. You turn on the game, you start playing, and within a few minutes, you know whether it clicks. With a lot of modern games, that moment comes much later. Before you even reach the core experience, you're navigating live service systems, dismissing monetization prompts, accepting terms and conditions, and wading through menus filled with features you might never use. None of these things are bad on their own, but together they create friction, and that friction adds up before the game even has a chance to show you what it's really about. To be clear, this isn't a knock on developers. Modern games are massive, complex, and clearly made with a huge amount of care and effort. But at some point, players don't need more systems, they need clarity. They want to answer one simple question as fast as possible. Is this game for me? That's why games like Arc Raiders stands out. What resonates with players isn't endless content or layer progression, it's focus. The game gets to its point quickly, movement feels good, combat has weight, tension is immediate, and the core loop is clear almost right away. You're not being onboarded into a service, you're just playing the game. When you compare that to something like Black Ops 7, you start to see the contrast. BL7 isn't lacking content, it's overflowing with it. Modes, progression systems, unlocks, seasonal hooks, monetization layer all built up over the years. That breadth appeals to a lot of players, but it also creates resistance. Our creators takes the opposite approach. It's narrower, more opinionated, and willing to cut things out. That's exactly why it works. That focus is what gives it its staying power, not because it has more to do, but because the core experience is strong enough that players want to come back. Retro games didn't feel easier to enjoy because they were primitive. They felt easier because they were direct. And when modern games remember that when they strip away friction and let the gameplay speak first, they tap into that same magic again. So, what is it about retro games that makes them even easier to enjoy than most modern games? The first big difference is the instant commitment. Retro games ask almost nothing from you before you play. No accounts, no patches, no profiles, no settings, no tours. You press start and the game commits to you and you commit to it easily. Second is mechanical honesty. In most retro games, what you can do is obvious within seconds. You move, jump, shoot, you dodge, and there aren't layers of progression systems sitting on top of the mechanics. The depth comes from the mastery, not from unlocking the real version of the game later. You're playing the full game from the beginning to the end. Another huge factor is focused design. Retro games were built around a single core loop and tuned relentlessly around it. Limited hardware forced developers to prioritize what mattered most. If something wasn't fun, it didn't make it in. There was no room for features that only existed to pad engagement or retention metrics. There's also no performative onboarding. Retro games rarely explain themselves in detail, and that was a strength. They trusted players to experiment, fail, and learn. The first level wasn't a tutorial, it was the lesson. The game taught you by letting you play. And finally, retro games respected short play sessions. You could boot up a game, play for 10 minutes, feel something, and walk away satisfied. Modern games often assume you'll stay for hours, which makes them the front load friction and back load fun. That doesn't mean retro games were perfect. Many of them were brutally hard, unclear, unfair, but when they worked because nothing stood between you and the experience. No meta systems, no obligations, no distractions, just the game and the player. And that's the part modern games keep losing and rediscovering. Take Super Mario Bros. For example. Within the first 30 seconds, the game teaches you almost everything you need to know without a single line of text. You move right, you jump, you hit a Goomba and die. Next time, you jump on it. You learn that blocks can be hit, pipes can be entered, and falling in a pit is bad. By the end of World 1-1, you're playing Mario, not waiting to unlock it. Now compare that to a modern platformer. Before you reach that same level of freedom, you're often sitting through a tutorial level with pop-ups, restricted movement, and abilities temporarily disabled, so the game can explain them one by one. The mechanics might be deeper, but the access to them is delayed. Or look at Doom, not the modern one, but the 1993 one. You start with a gun, enemies are already moving, and within seconds you're managing a space, ammo, and aggression. The full combat loop is there immediately. You don't unlock sprinting later, you don't need perks to make the shotgun feel fun. The depth comes from how well you play, not from what you've equipped. Contrast that with many modern shooters. The first hours often spent unlocking basic tools, completing onboarding missions, and progressing through menus. The real combat experience is something you grow into, rather than something you're trusted with from the start. Now think about how many modern action games lock movement options behind skill trees or progression systems. You're not learning the game, you're waiting for it. Even in RPGs, the contrast is clear. In Chrono Trigger, you're fighting enemies within minutes. The battle system is active, readable, and complete early on. There are no mandatory tutorials explaining every stat, no crafting systems layered on top. The game trusts you to understand by doing. Modern RPGs often bury that same clarity under inventories, crafting, talents, dailies, and currencies before you even connect with the combat or story. The common thread here isn't simplicity, it's immediacy. Retro games put the entire core experience in your hands instantly. Modern games often have to ask you to wait, commit, or invest before you're allowed to fully engage. That's why retro games feel easier, not because they were better, but because they didn't make you earn the right to have fun. All of this comes down to memory versus momentum. Retro games were built to be remembered. You played a game, you beat a boss, you saw the credits, and that moment stuck with you. The game moved forward in clear steps, and each one created a memory you could point to. That level, that fight, that ending. Progress had shape. Modern games are built around momentum. The goal isn't to leave you with long-lasting memories, it's to keep you moving. One match leads to the next challenge, which leads to the next reward, which leads to the next season. You're always in motion, but rarely arriving anywhere. Momentum feels good and short term. It's smooth, frictionless, and addictive, but it doesn't always turn into meaning. When everything blends together, fewer moments stand out. You've played a lot, but it's hard to remember what you played. Retro games weren't afraid of pauses. They gave you space to stop, reflect, and walk away satisfied. That space is what turns play into memory. Modern games remove those stopping points. There's always something new to chase, something about to expire, something you haven't done yet. The experience doesn't conclude it continues. That's why retro games feel lighter. Not because they were smaller, but because they let moments settle. They didn't need constant motion to stay relevant. They trusted that a good experience would stay with you even after you stopped playing. One last thing that made retro games easier to play was how convenient they were. Retro games didn't care when you played them. You could pick them up for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and the experience was the same. There were no dailies to miss, no streaks to break, no limited time events quietly punishing you for having a life. The game waited for you. Modern games, especially live service ones, don't really do that. They run on schedules, daily challenges, weekly resets, seasonal content, login bonuses. You're not just deciding if you want to play, you're deciding whether it's worth missing what the game is offering today. There's also a personal reason I keep coming back to retro games. I didn't have much growing up, but I remember how much fun I had playing them. Those moments stuck with me, and when I go back to play those games now, it doesn't feel like I'm just killing time. It feels familiar, comforting. A lot of modern games feel different. Even when they're good, I sometimes feel like I'm just filling hours, logging in, logging out, moving on. But with retro games, it feels like I'm reconnecting with something I lost along the way. Not nostalgia for games themselves, but for the feeling of playing without pressure, without obligation. It's not about going backward, it's about remembering what made games matter to me in the first place. At the end of the day, that's why I keep coming back to retro games. I didn't have much growing up, but I remember how much fun I had playing them. Those moments stayed with me, and now when I play, it's not just passing time, it's reconnecting with part of me that was lost. Modern games are amazing in their own way, but they don't always give you that freedom. That's why I think it's okay to step back, to play what feels right for you when it feels right. This isn't about saying one type of game is better than the other. It's giving yourself permission to play for the joy of it, not because the game demands it. Play what you want, play how you want, and let yourself enjoy it. Thanks for watching. If you like tech, computer, or gaming news in general, I'm going to be posting more videos like this, so feel free to subscribe. No pressure.